Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all so much for being here. Mayor Johnson, Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle, thank you for having us here in the city. I am Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. I represent Washington State's 7th Congressional District. I also serve as the ranking member or the top Democrat on the Immigration Subcommittee. And in that role, we have been conducting shadow hearings in Washington, D.C. This is our first one outside of Washington, D.C., to bring accountability, to shine a light on what is happening in Chicago, across the country, with Donald Trump's lawless, corrupt, violent, and inhumane actions that are being carried out on the streets of Chicago and across the country. We have the largest grouping of Democratic members of Congress that we have had doing oversight action right here in Chicago. And I want to thank the members, 19 members strong, that have shown up for 2 days here in Chicago to hear from people what is happening on the ground, to have roundtables. We had a roundtable yesterday with directly impacted people. We had a roundtable yesterday with leaders in the rapid response community who are trying to respond to the devastation, the terror, the trauma, and the fear that they see in their communities unfolding before their very eyes. We have another roundtable after this with business owners to really showcase the impact on the economy here in Chicago. And we have another roundtable with educators, because our kids are not showing up to school because they're afraid. And when people can be tear gassed just blocks away from a school, it sends terror into the hearts of everybody. None of this is disconnected from the abuses of power, the corruption that we see on so many levels. House Democrats have been fighting to make sure that we protect the health care of 22 million Americans who are seeing their premiums double and triple because of this lawless administration. We have been working to make sure that we swear in Adelita Grijalva from the state of Arizona so that we can hold the Republicans accountable and make them release all the Epstein files. And we have been doing the work on immigration, despite the fact that we have no official channel to do it because Republicans refuse to do that. We are here to say that we stand in solidarity with the communities across Chicagoland, across the country, in other cities like LA, Washington, D.C., Portland, Oregon, and with all the residents, regardless of immigration status, who are being caught up in this horrific war that the Trump administration is waging on our own cities, on our own residents. We're not backing down, and this is just one example of how we will continue to hold this administration accountable. I want to just read out the members, some of whom you'll hear from today, that are here, and just recognize their presence from the state of Illinois, and great partners, leaders in setting up this hearing and in all the work we do in Congress. Representatives Chuy Garcia, Representative Delia Ramirez, Representative Robin Kelly, and Representative Danny Davis, in whose district we stand. Thank you for your friendship and your leadership in setting up these hearings. Also want to recognize that our House Democratic Caucus chair is with us, Chairman Aguilar from the state of California. Members of the Judiciary Committee that are here with us, Representative Becca Ballant, Representative Jasmine Crockett, Representative Sidney Kamlager-Dove, Representative Mary Gay Scanlon, Representative, and those are the Judiciary Committee members. And let me go through the rest of them that are here as well. Representative Sean Casten, the chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus is with us, Adriano Espaillat from New York, Representative Bill Foster from Illinois, Representative Sylvia Garcia from Texas, Representative Jonathan Jackson from Illinois, Representative Raja Krishnamurthy from Illinois, Representative Mike Quigley from Illinois, Representative Jan Schakowsky from Illinois, and Representative Rashida Tlaib from Michigan. Thank you all so much for making the time to be with us today. Now let me recognize Representative Chuy Garcia, who has played a leading role and serves on the Immigration Subcommittee with me.
Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal, for coming to Chicago and being such a strong defender of immigrants' rights and for pursuing good policy in the field of immigration for the future, for the present and future of America. I am most grateful to the members who have come to Chicago, 19 strong, coast to coast, LA to Chicago, New York, from Texas to the border with Canada. We are here because we care. And as we have, if they have arrived in Chicago, they have learned that Chicago is the country's oldest immigrant-friendly sanctuary city, proclaimed by Harold Washington via executive order, later codified and held strong by Mayor Brandon Johnson. President Tony Preckwinkle, instrumental in helping me pass the nation's first ICE detainer ordinance that said, if you don't have probable cause and you don't have a warrant, we will not honor any of your detainers. Because in America, due process is what matters. It mattered in 2011, Madam President, and it continues to matter more than ever in these days. We've heard the stories of real people affected by the atrocious policies of this administration. And as you saw 2 days ago in my neighborhood of 57 years in Little Village, and then again yesterday, we saw a little man lead an attack on a hardworking, studious, industrious community as he sprayed tear gas on people in our community. We reject these practices. We say no warrants, no due process, no names or faces, just terror. That's why Chicago, Cook County, and the state of Illinois remain strong, holding it firm and showing America that immigrants are good for our country. They are the past, present, and the future, and we stand with each and every one of them. Muy buenos días. Me agrada que nos acompañen 19 miembros de los demócratas en el Congreso de los Estados Unidos, demostrando el apoyo de costa a costa, de Texas a la frontera con Canadá. Somos fuertes, repudiamos las políticas de esta administración, seguimos firmes y vamos a prevalecer porque el derecho y el moral está de nuestro lado. Muchas gracias.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Representative Garcia. Now let me introduce Representative Delia Ramirez, who has also been absolutely instrumental in holding this administration accountable on so many issues, including immigration.
I want to start by asking all of you to help me think an unapologetic truth teller, an immigrant herself, who every single day shows up fully herself fighting for our communities, and that's our ranking member, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. Thank you for convening this delegation here in Chicago and the shadow hearing. I'm really grateful for your leadership and your mentorship, especially as I navigate the halls of Congress. Today, colleagues of mine from all over the country heard from our community on the ground what we're experiencing, what we're living, the violent attacks by this invasion created by Donald Trump and Kristi Noem. Rapid responders, a few of them who came to listen, left halfway through the hearing because, again, our communities are under attack. At least 4 people in my district disappeared in the last hour and a half. This is happening all over the city, the northwest suburbs, and frankly, the entire state. It was so important for my colleagues to hear directly from the people themselves on the ground. Not from the politicians, although we love our politicians. And I got to give a big shout out to 2 leaders here with incredible moral clarity, President Tony Preckwinkle and our Mayor Brandon Johnson, because you understand the assignment. You show up and you lead courageously every single day, and we're grateful for that. But I want to end in saying this, and I want to end in saying this. Chicago is not broken. Chicago will never be broken. And we will do everything in our power collectively with this delegation and with the leaders here today, with every elected, but more importantly, led by the grassroots people that don't need titles to do the work. They're just showing up with a whistle, with a phone, and a commitment to keep each other safe. May my colleagues take this conviction back as we remind those in leadership in Congress that it is our moral responsibility to defend our communities. And when they fail to do so, the community will rise and show up as they always have. I am committed to ensuring that every committee hearing, every opportunity, and in every place, we uplift the work in Chicago, and we do the work once we're in the majority so that we never arrive here again. Just 2 seconds in Spanish. Quiero agradecerle a la delegación que vino de todo el país, bajo el liderazgo de nuestra congresista aquí, Pramila Jayapal. El liderazgo también de otros que están aquí, como el congresista Adriano Espaillat, que es el líder del caucus latino en el Congreso, y también Pete Aguilar, que es el latino con más liderazgo también en el Congreso. Queremos recordar que lo que estamos viendo aquí en Chicago no es normal, pero es la responsabilidad de cada uno de nosotros para defender nuestras comunidades. No nos quebrarán, no nos han quebrado, y es la gente que está haciendo ese trabajo en este momento, literalmente en este momento, defendiendo nuestra comunidad, que nos va a mostrar cómo salimos adelante. Así que no están solos, a trabajar y a pelear por nuestra comunidad, porque nos organizamos. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Representative Ramirez. You know, in these moments, we look to the leadership of great leaders who stand up and protect their cities. And there is no greater example of that than Mayor Brandon Johnson right here in Chicago, who has been standing up over and over again to the abuses of the Trump administration, and who is showing the rest of our cities across the country what that looks like and giving inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much, Mayor Johnson.
Thank you, Congresswoman, and to our entire congressional delegation that's here today. I want to thank the organizations that Congresswoman Ramirez alluded to, the Illinois Coalition of Immigrant and Refugee Rights, the Executive Director Lawrence Benito, Genesis O, Pastor David Black, CFL President Bob Ryder, Palenque LSNA Executive Director Juliet de Jesus Alejandre, and then, of course, the ACLU of Illinois Legal Director Kevin Fee. I'm grateful that you all are here to shed light today on Trump's unlawful and increasingly aggressive actions taken against our city and cities across America. What we heard in the hearing today was alarming stories of protesters being attacked, children being traumatized, and communities living in fear because of an administration that believes in cruelty as a policy. It is beyond clear that the Trump administration doesn't care about Chicago's safety. In fact, he doesn't care about the American people at all. The President of the United States is actively silencing voices and violating the First Amendment. He is brazenly committing acts of war against the people of Chicago. With boots on the ground, efforts with a clear war on working people. And he has demonstrated this through tariffs, extreme budget cuts, and of course tax breaks for the ultra-wealthy. He is trying to intimidate and erase immigrants and working people and anyone who believes in democracy and justice. But here's the good news. Trump cannot intimidate us. We will continue to work together, and we will do it in unity. Our standing here today, standing here proudly, unapologetically, sends a very clear message to Donald Trump. The Chicago will not be silent. We will not bend, we will not cower, and we will certainly not break. Chicago is and always will be a city that believes in democracy and justice, a city that wholeheartedly embraces diversity, our immigrant communities from around the globe. And what we are saying is that we are a welcoming city, and that is not just a slogan, but it's a promise. My administration launched the Protecting Chicago initiative to protect our communities against unlawful federal actions and ultimately to defend our nation's democracy. I'm committed to using every single tool that we have to make sure that we are protecting the people of Chicago. We are standing in union with community organizations, businesses, the philanthropic community, activists, elected officials, and the faith community to do all that we can to protect and defend the constitutional rights of every single Chicagoan. And we've done this through executive orders, through litigation, and peaceful demonstrations. We will continue to do that, but make no mistake, what we heard today in today's hearing is certainly frightening and distressing, but we cannot be afraid. We have to remain firm and committed to ensure that justice for all prevails. And so I'm grateful again that we have so many clear, conscientious leaders that recognize that even as Dr. King and Cesar Chavez and Mother Jones, they understood that we have to continue to fight for dignity, equality, and justice for all. And with that, I'm grateful to bring to the podium the Cook County Board President, Tony Preckwinkle.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. Cook County is home to more than 5 million people who work hard, raise families, and contribute to the vitality of our communities. Many came here seeking safety and opportunity. And yet today, too many of our friends and neighbors no longer feel safe at home, at work, not even in public spaces. President Trump's decision to militarize ICE has set a dangerous precedent. Agents in masks are breaking into homes, carrying weapons downtown, kidnapping people in broad daylight. Individuals, regardless of their immigration status, are being targeted, and entire communities are living in fear. These actions have nothing to do with the safety of the American people. They're designed to spread fear. This isn't protection, it's intimidation. These extreme, un-American, and discriminatory actions by our own federal agents, ordered by President Trump, are cruel and indefensible. These are the actions of a president who has no respect for our laws, our values, and is actively working to undermine the very fabric of our democracy. I've signed an executive order banning the use of Cook County-owned property and resources for civil immigration enforcement. And my administration will continue to use every tool and every resource at our disposal to fight the militarization of ICE. I'm proud to stand here today with a coalition of state and local leaders united in our resolve to defend our residents and uphold the values of justice and safety for all of our communities. Cook County will not tolerate injustice or the inhumane treatment of people who come here seeking safety and the chance to build a better life. America is a great nation because people have come from all over the world to make it so. Cook County is and will remain a welcoming county. We will continue to work every day to stand up for every resident, to ensure that every resident feels safe, respected, and valued. Now it's my pleasure to bring to the podium Representative Danny Davis. Is he still with us?
Yep.
There he is.
Well, I am. Thank you very much, and let me first of all just thank Representative Joe Paul for bringing 19 members of the U.S. House of Representatives, all Democrats, to Chicago. And so I'm pleased to stand here with the mayor of my city, with the president of my Cook County board, and reaffirm that Chicago is a fight-back city, that under no circumstances will we stand and allow the illegal disrespect and disruption of our citizens. We recognize that immigrants have rights that should be protected, rights that should be respected each and every time, each and everywhere.
That's right.
Dr. King was known for saying that if you have injustice anywhere, it is a threat to justice everywhere. We don't intend for injustice to occur in Illinois, nor in the United States of America. So I thank my colleagues for helping us highlight what has taken place in Chicago so that we can make sure that it does not continue and does not take place in other cities throughout America. Thank you all again.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Representative Davis. Now let me bring up to the podium House Democratic Caucus Chair, Representative Pete Aguilar from California.
Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal and Mayor Johnson and commissioners and President Preckwinkle and my colleagues as well. Democrats are laser focused on ensuring everyone in our communities feels safe and secure from crime. But Donald Trump and his Republican henchmen, time and time again, have been more focused on demonizing the entire immigrant community rather than working on bipartisan solutions to improve public safety. From day one, we saw how unserious Donald Trump was when he pardoned 1,500 January 6th rioters from prison, many of whom were violent criminals, pedophiles, and domestic abusers. One of those charged, even committed this week, threatened the life of Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. This shows the Trump administration's backwards priorities, pardoning violent criminals and going after people whose only crime is that they may be undocumented. Instead of targeting criminals, President Trump is unleashing agents across this country and disappearing people off the streets without due process. In many cases, detaining U.S. citizens and law-abiding immigrants with no criminal history. In my community of San Bernardino, California, a masked immigration agent opened fire on an unarmed vehicle in the middle of a residential neighborhood. The person was so scared for their life, they called the local police department to ask for help. This failed approach to so-called immigration enforcement is not only wrong, but it's un-American. And it's dangerous because actual criminals can slip through the cracks while innocent people are punished. By targeting people and how they look and the language they speak, the Trump administration is causing chaos, inciting protests, and making it harder for law enforcement to do their jobs. This isn't about law and order, it's about cruelty and chaos. Let's not forget, Donald Trump and Republicans have actually cut funding for law enforcement and public safety, not made it stronger. Democrats will continue to stand up and speak out against these cruel and dangerous actions and work tirelessly on ways that actually keep Americans safe. Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal.
Thank you so much, Representative Aguilar. Now let me bring up my good friend and colleague, Representative Robin Kelly.
Thank you, Congresswoman Jayapal, for everything that you're doing. You deserve so much credit. And thank you to Mayor Johnson, and thank you to Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle for hosting us, and all of my colleagues, as you have heard, from New York to California. I want to thank all the witnesses who came forward and all the people that are coming forward. One of my constituents, Genesis, shared the story of her mom, Laura Murillo, who was arrested and detained by ICE while she was working. President Trump and Secretary Kristi Noem are spreading racist lies that immigrants are lazy and don't work. Well, guess what? They arrested her while she was working. We don't know why she was detained, but if Laura is deported to her home country, she has every reason to fear that she will be killed. Her son and her son's father were killed after being deported. I am demanding answers on behalf of Genesis and her family so they can be united with her mom. ICE is simply tearing families apart. Secretary Kristi Noem should be ashamed of herself for parading in front of cameras and treating ICE raids like a game show. That shows her ignorance and her incompetence. Federal agents invaded my district, the 2nd District, deployed drones and helicopters and used flashbang grenades to burst through an apartment building in the South Shore. In the 2nd District again, federal agents caused a dangerous car crash and then shot pepper balls and tear gas into a crowd of people. And the 2 people injured in the car crash worked for Genesis' mother. ICE Gestapo tactics hurt everyone, whether you're an immigrant or not. It hurts our democracy and traumatizes our neighborhoods. Only a weak and dictator wannabe president needs to send troops to bully only Democratic cities and their residents. Democrats won't stay silent, and we will not give in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Kelly, and I hope everyone watches Genesis's very, very powerful testimony at the field hearing. It's really remarkable that we are in this situation where we hear stories like this. let me bring up to the podium Representative Adriano Espaillat from New York, who is also the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus.
Good afternoon, Chicago. I bring you greetings from New York, from Harlem, from Washington Heights in the Bronx. This is yet another troubling day. What we witness here, the testimonies that we've heard. Masked agents, anonymous. Imagine if anybody comes to your home and knocks on your door without a first name or a last name or a shield number. You won't open up. You shouldn't open up. At the same time, sensitive locations like houses of worship are now subject to raids. We have little access to the detention centers, although the law guarantees us as duly elected members of Congress access to those centers. Tear gas, toxic fumes have been thrown even at members of our caucus, of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Senator Alex Padilla, a sitting member of the Senate for California, thrown on the ground. This is the state of affairs, the deployment of the National Guard, the weaponization of the Justice Department against the opponents of this wannabe dictator. These are all the characteristics of a dictatorship. America is not exempt from having a dictatorship. We have to fight back to preserve democracy. And we're here today as a step that shows that as a community, Chicago is fighting back, and Congress, the Democratic Caucus and the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, we're fighting back. And we will continue to fight back and go to each and every one of the cities across the country where this is occurring, including New York, where you had a raid on Canal Street just yesterday. Estamos aquí para apoyar a Chicago. Entendemos que somos solidarios con Chicago, que no debe suceder aquí lo que también está sucediendo en otras ciudades. Vamos a objetar la agresión de Donald Trump y vamos a objetar la agresión de ICE. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Our last speaker today was a powerful witness at our shadow hearing and has been on the front lines, both affected himself, shot by rubber bullets while he was praying at a detention center, and also deeply embedded in the community, Senior Pastor David Black.
I stand before you today in service to the God of Abraham and Hagar, of Isaac and Ishmael, Father of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. To God alone be all the glory, honor, and praise. Amen. I ought to be standing before you today in sackcloth and ashes because of the desolating sacrilege which is being perpetrated across this land in the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Let us be clear that Jesus Christ is wherever Jesus of Little Village is, as he suffers the effects of tear gas, as he suffers the tyranny and the terror of being abducted by federal agents who are anonymous and being held to no account. There are many who have characterized my acts and the acts of other protesters as acts of resistance. They're wrong. I am a pastor. I'm not a political activist. And I've gone to the ICE Broadview facility many times to pray and evangelize and call ICE agents to repentance. I want them to remember that when this administration is gone, and it will be gone, they will not be protected by those who used them to channel their own violent destruction into this country. I have come to Broadview all these weeks simply to proclaim what Jesus himself has said. The kingdom of God is at hand, and all of God's children are invited to turn from wickedness, to be saved from the principalities of evil in this world, and to let their weapons be melted and recast into tools for planting gardens and building homes. As an ordained minister in the Church of Jesus Christ, I, like him, am anointed and exhorted to bring good news to the poor, to proclaim the freedom of all captives, and to announce the year of Jubilee, that the new creation is at hand and soon will come. And I must exhort those of our elected leaders who are simply waiting to return to power that we don't have time to wait. We do not have time to wait for the Trump administration to continue consolidating its power to an extent that will no longer be removable by free and fair elections. We need the action of our city and state governments now to protect those citizens who are stepping up and putting their bodies on the line, to protect our neighbors, our friends, our teachers, our community members. I invite and exhort all members of Congress present in Chicago today to stay, to go to Broadview today, to witness what we witness, to put their bodies where Americans put their bodies, to join the rapid response teams, which are heroically keeping our neighborhoods safe, and then to bring all the powers to bear, which the city and state and congressional, these powers have, to keep our city, our community, and our world safe so that America might one day again be a land that is looked to for a vision of justice and liberation. May God have mercy on the United States of America.
Thank you, Pastor. We have a little bit of time for questions, so I'll open it up and invite any of our colleagues here to answer. Yes, ma'am. And if you can just identify who you are and which outlet.
I'm with Politico. I have two questions for the mayor, if possible.
Sure.
First, it looks like the Justice Department has filed an appeal regarding sanctuary status. Remember, one judge already ruled, and now we've got an appeal. And second, if I can deviate, can you talk about what's happening in Springfield? Are you guys headed down there?
Well, as far as, the Trump's administration's, commitment to undermining local authority, our entire legal division will continue to put forth the strongest case to protect our city as a welcoming city. And here's what that simply means, is that as a city, our local law enforcement will not dub as federal ICE agents. And we believe that's necessary in order to maximize community safety. As long as our local law enforcement is showing up for people every single day, regardless of their immigration status, that engenders confidence. And so protecting the Welcoming City Ordinance allows for us to continue to do all the necessary work to build the safest, most affordable big city in America. As far as Springfield is concerned, you heard from many members of our congressional delegation and even from our faith community that as a local body, as a state body as well, we have to do everything in our power to protect the people of the city and the state of Illinois. That's why I've put forth the boldest, most progressive budget in the history of Chicago, challenging the ultra-rich and our largest corporations to contribute more skin in the game, to continue to make sure that we're protecting families who are going to lose SNAP, who are losing health care, they're losing access to high-quality education, they're losing access to housing and transportation. And so my work in Springfield will challenge our state legislature as well as the governor to challenge corporations to put more skin in the game. And so, we're very clear about our position around raising the corporate income tax by less than 1% to generate hundreds of millions of dollars for our state. The digital ad tax is something that I believe has a lot of traction, and so we support that. And then, of course, our personal property replacement tax. This is another way in which we can generate more revenue from corporations, and it will take some of the burden off of the local efforts if the state actually, accepted this charge to protect the people of Chicago and the state of Illinois from Trump's cuts.
Hang on 1 second. First of all, we're only going to take questions on the topic of immigration and this hearing and the work that our members are doing. So the mayor is here for any questions you may have later, but for this hearing, we are focusing on, for this moment, we're focusing on this topic. I want to speak on sanctuary cities for a moment, because all of the research, and I've worked on this issue for over 30 years now, all of the research says that when local law enforcement can spend their time and their resources protecting communities and doing the work of local law enforcement, it actually increases public safety for everyone. When they cooperate with immigration enforcement, with federal law enforcement around immigration issues, it actually pushes people away, and it makes everyone less safe because people are afraid to report crimes that may be happening right there in their communities. They're afraid to work with local law enforcement. So we will continue to protect the rights of our cities to ensure public safety for everyone by not enforcing immigration law. Yes. Right behind you, right behind you. Yeah, yeah, you. I saw your hand first. Yes, sorry, I don't know all the reporters in Chicago, so go ahead. Thank you.
First of all, can you talk to us about what your hopes are for what this hearing might do to bring about some changes? And in light of that, as we think about immigration, are you considering any kind of remote learning for CPS schools because of all the kids who may be afraid to go to school?
Well, look, that fear is real, right? There are people who are afraid to go to school, people are afraid to go to work, and it's having a profound impact on our local economy. Many of these businesses have shown that they have lost revenue upwards of 30 to 40%. And so, as you know, the board is interested in asking the governor for a declared state of emergency. That's his authority, but that's something that I certainly believe that should be considered, right, to keep people safe. As far as the first part of your question, this is really about a union and a united front, that the entire country is pretty clear that this president is working outside of the constitutional authority that he possesses. And so you're seeing cities all over the country that have modeled many of my executive orders. You saw it happen in Portland. There are suburban municipalities that are doing the same. This is really about showing a sign of strength that whether you are documented or not, the fact that this president has declared war on poor people, we're talking about a group of individuals, part of the Democratic Party, who recognize that we should be declaring war on poverty.
That's right.
And not war on poor people.
Do you think schools should consider going?
I said yes, but that's the governor's authority. They have to ask for a declared emergency, and I understand that they're pushing for that, but that's his authority. That's not mine.
Mayor, Jim Talamantes, Center Square, for you and the Illinois representatives, have any of you tried reaching out directly to the White House to try to set up a meeting with the president?
Well, I understand it's a little noisy over there is because he's destroying an entire wing of the entire White House. So if the phone lines worked over there, I'm sure we would be open to having that conversation. Look, this is not about whether or not, and please, Congressman Davis or Jayapal, if anyone you want to address this president is not interested in talking to us. He's not. Have we tried?
Can you do them one-on-one, or is it?
I mean, Jayapal, any one of you want to?
Robin, and then I have a word to say on this.
He is not going to meet with us. We can't even get him to meet with us. He and the Republicans are gone. He's flying out of the country. We can't even get him to meet with us about the shutdown. He certainly is not meeting with us about this.
Plus, he's tearing down the White House.
And he's more interested in prosecuting us than meeting with us. Just talked to Congresswoman LaMonica McIver from New Jersey, who was doing her due diligence conducting oversight at a detention facility in New Jersey, and was charged and is currently being prosecuted. So the answer to your question is no. This president is more interested in prosecuting us than in working with us or in listening to us. When we finally were able to meet with him to talk about the government shutdown and health care, Leader Jeffries told us that it seemed as if this president was hearing this information for the very first time, that people were going to have health care premiums quadruple at the very least. So we all should be asking the president to listen to the citizens and community residents throughout this country about the war he is waging on the entire country, let alone Chicago.
Shy Guardian, Deep South Press Corps, Mark Armstrong. So it's come to our attention through our caucus sources, Mr. Mayor, that you're supposed to have filed a report on spending on illegal aliens in Chicago with the White House by now. What's happening with that, or what has happened with that?
We don't have illegal aliens.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's from some sort of sci-fi message that you wish have had. Well, listen, the legal term for my people were slaves. You want me to use that term too? So look, let's just get the language right. We're talking about undocumented individuals that are human beings. The last thing that I'm going to do is accept the type of racist, nasty language to describe human beings. And so as far as our spending on Chicagoans, I've put forth a $16.7 billion balanced budget that ensures that we're investing in education, transportation, housing, youth employment, environmental justice, as well as ensuring that we have safe communities. And we are going to challenge the ultra wealthy to pay their fair share. He's more than happy to look at that budget.
Let me just, excuse me, let me just say something here. Let me just say something right here. It is very important that people in Illinois and across the country understand the immigration system is a civil system. Undocumented presence in the United States is not a criminal offense. And so thank you for the clarification on language right here, right here.
Mayor Johnson, Jeff Buckles, WBBM News Radio. A quick follow-up to the question Craig Wall asked you about schools. I know it's the governor's responsibility to make an emergency declaration. Are you specifically asking the governor to make that declaration, and have you communicated with him about it?
Well, I have not spoken to the governor directly about it, but the authority sits in the Board of Education. That's their authority and responsibility, and they expect, I don't know if they're actually going to do that, but I understand that there is a worthwhile conversation around making sure that we're protecting all of Chicago. Yes, yeah, last question here. Yeah.
Earlier during the hearing, a lot of people brought up Harold Washington's initial ordinances to basically make the city welcoming for immigrants. With everything that's happening on the ground, people are leaving from hearings to go do rapid response. At the city level, especially at the county level, the state level, is there any consideration of legislation to refine what already is on the books in response to the tactics that are being used on the ground by federal immigration agents and citizens walking around with whistles, being detained, harassed, et cetera, by federal agents?
Yeah, it's terrorizing, right? I mean, we saw Black Hawk helicopters. This is what Congresswoman Kelly was referencing, that landed on the top of buildings in the South Shore community, right? Where they put black folks in one van and immigrants in another van, zip-tied children. Like, look, this is not about safety, and it's certainly not about immigration. Because if it were about either one of them, he would use his executive leadership to actually put forth comprehensive proposals so that we can actually debate it. That's what democracy does. Now, in terms of how we are responding to the unconstitutional, unruly, ungodly, evil, wicked acts from this administration, it's why we have put forth multiple executive orders to, one, ensure we were the first city to do that, to ensure that this personalized, militarized occupation force in ICE cannot just set up their acts of raid in public spaces, particularly city-owned property. It's why we refined our Know Your Rights effort so that people could be educated. It's to know their rights so that all of our sister agencies and departments know what their rights are to keep people safe. An executive order to ensure that the fundamental right to protest and to peacefully assemble could be protected. Now, are there other things that we're considering? Absolutely. It's going to take a collective effort to respond to these unprecedented moments. You heard, well, maybe you didn't. If there was ever a time for working people to unite, this is that time. Because here's what we do know. The ultra-rich and the billionaires, they have certainly united against us. And so that's why we're calling people to do everything in our power on the ground, in the courts, in the streets, through executive action to make sure that we're keeping people safe. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Let me just end this by saying that, I came to the United States at 16 years old by myself as an immigrant, and I will be the first chair when we take back the House of the Immigration Subcommittee, the first naturalized citizen to serve in that position. And when I think about Genesis's mother, Laura, when I think about the person that we spoke with yesterday who serves in the armed services, is fighting, putting his life on the line for our country only to be called back to Chicago because his father has been deported by the time he gets here. When I think about the young woman who testified yesterday, who spoke to us at the round table yesterday about her mother who was selling tamales and was picked up and detained. When I think about every story that is about somebody being picked up because of what they look like, what language they speak, what street corner they stand on, what I want you to know is it's pretty rare that 19 members of Congress fly from all over the country to be in Chicago because we want to be, number one, in solidarity with the communities that are under attack by their own federal government, by the Trump administration. Number two, because we want to shine a light on what is happening and lift up the abuses of power that define this Trump administration. Number three, because we want to make it clear that we are not standing for this. They are taking away our powers. It is true. They are arresting our colleagues. They are charging our colleagues simply for trying to do the congressional oversight that we are mandated and responsible to do. And we want you to know that we are not sitting down. We are standing up. We will take these field hearings across the country, and we will use every part of our power and our platform to fight back and ensure that we return this country to a country of democracy and justice for all. Thank you all so much.